Hello and welcome to Kitten Space Agency. I've just downloaded the first public pre-alpha release of the game, and this is my first real look at it. I've done a little bit of tinkering just to see if I can, make sure the game itself will run long enough to get a recording. We start here looking at their first rocket. There's a little bit of text here. Apparently there are other crafts we can look at, and so on. We have some graphical things going on, which I think I've seen get better if I adjust the graphical settings. I don't think I even have to do anything. I think I just have to apply. And yes, that clears many things up, just applying the settings. So, we are starting out in orbit around Earth at 207 kilometers. I am not sure whether that is altitude above the ground or actual orbital radius. Although it does say apoapsis is 207 kilometers, that should be orbital radius. Well, that's actually nonsense because the Earth is more than 200 kilometers in radius. That's got to be altitude. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can run through a couple of simple maneuvers here. Show off of some of the things in KSA, kind of get a record of where we're starting here at this early alpha stage. This says v2025.11.4.2791, so that's the build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set my controls here to me prograde. I don't have a flight stick attached. I'd rather not fly with the keyboard at this time, more than I have to. Okay, so that will tilt us down to a point along our orbit with our up direction facing away from the planet. And it actually documents that down there in the pop-up. Prograde, nose points towards orbital velocity, up points outside orbit. We have a bunch of other things. What I would like to do is do a simple orbital change where I'm just going to raise my orbit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn forward to raise the altitude at the other side of the orbit. Remember how orbits work. If we burn forward on this side, then it's that side that's going to puff out. Okay, so I'm going to do this from the map view so we can watch what happens on the orbit. We're facing prograde. I'm going to ignite the engines. Oops. Hit tab to control the rocket. I have raised our apoapsis to a altitude of 1,400 kilometers, roughly. Now I want to circularize at that altitude. So we're going to start by picking up the transfer planning maneuver. And I'm going to say the plan type here. I'm not sure why that's not letting me select that. Oh, I probably need to release control of the rocket. Okay. So we can still pan around. The transfer planning window is stuck. That is unfortunate. I can still fly the rocket. But if I go to a different vessel, I can't change vessels. Well, that's unfortunate. And escape gets me to the settings menu. If I hit, oh, look at that. The hotspot for the mouse is offset from the mouse itself. And when I apply, it crashes. So it's something is causing the UI to get in a weird state there. Let's see if I can do this while pussyfooting very carefully through things. Remember, the key term here is pre-alpha, and I am not expecting this to be anything but extremely fragile. Okay, we're going to apply the graphics changes. Boom. And again, look at the mouse cursor is way below the item it is bringing up. I am not sure this is, well, no, that's correct now. So let's try this again. Prograde. We can adjust time. Set this to orbit, and I'm going to set the time warp up much higher, and that'll get us into the proper orientation for our burn. And that raised our apoapsis a bit. Okay. So now, without doing anything unexpected in the user interface, okay, F5 is the flight plan. F4, plan type is Hohmann. And it is not reacting. And I can't turn these off again. Oh, I wonder if you could only interact with the... Okay, so apparently you can only react with the top window in a sense. Okay, so I cleared it off, hit F4. And none of this is doing anything here. Okay, so I'm unable to get that to work right now. F2 removes our user interface. That's great for doing these nice screenshots. Let me try this one more time. F4 brings this up. And notice the highlighting went away. Okay, so if I do something to cause the highlighting to go away, even if I move my mouse out of here. Okay, so we bring it up like that, and that is bringing it up outside the screen area. Okay, so let's try something. There's F4. Can I move it? It keeps blinking outside my screen here. Yeah, it's bringing up user interface elements off screen, basically on the next display over to the right. Let's take a look at this. It crashed again. So Kitten Space Agency right now in my environment, which is Debian Trixie, Steam, and Proton 10, all of that together seems to be just a little bit too corner case for the current build. Okay. What if we do this just right off the mark? Move you guys out of the way in case there's a problem with the F4 menu coming up in the wrong place. Now I was able to drag you. We're going to circularize at apoapsis. And actually, this is going to do nothing because we're already in a circular orbit. So let's kill that. I really want to fix the graphical stuff, but I suspect that fixing the graphical issues is what was causing weird things to happen. My video card is an AMD Radeon. Okay, we're in the correct attitude. I can go ahead and burn. So now we have an apoapsis up there. I'm going to go back to manual there. Circular arts, apoapsis, rocket, create. And I'm not sure this created it. It did. So let's take that off. And I don't have anything here that allows me to execute it. Oh, it looked like it was grayed out. Silly me. Okay. So I hit the auto button. So we will automatically perform the burn when we get there. I want to be controlled for positive delta velocity. So we're going to point along the burn direction. Notice on the nav ball over here on the left, we are in motion. So that's rotating us to be in the burn direction. I'm just going to wait for that to stabilize, and we're going to not try to maintain our orientation during the warp. When it comes out of warp, it will automatically bring us back into orientation. This will have us in an attitude that is close enough so that when we get to our destination, it won't be much of a change. I just don't want to be flipping around 180 degrees. There we go. 0, 0, 0. Back to null rotation, and we're going to warp to the planned burn. Actually, let's leave this on pause. I thought I was going to turn that off. Go to manual here. That's better. Auto warp is active. Okay, it automatically flipped us over to positive delta velocity on the control here. Why does this say burning in 30 seconds? We're nowhere near the burn point. We've turned off auto. Okay, so I have deleted the burns. Let's try this again. F4, circularize at apoapsis, create. Okay, so it says in 39 minutes, start burn for 1 second. Auto, and now we warp. So we probably had a previous burn still set up that I hadn't removed. So this should raise the old periapsis here from 207 out to the yellow marker there. Okay, we reorient ourselves and then roll to our preferred orientation. We're in real time now. Okay, so we did the burn. This has set us up to don't rotate. Now that's don't rotate with respect to the stars, so I'm going to put us back into prograde here. And now we can see that our orbit is very, very close to circular, between 796.8 and 798.4. But what I want to do now is I want to go to the moon. There's Luna out there. So what I'm going to do, hit F4. And we're going to do a Holman transfer, which is our least cost. This puts you, the idea is you have a orbit you're starting from, an orbit you're ending up at. And you want to fit a simple Kepler orbit that is tangent to where you're starting and tangent to where you're ending. And when you're rendezvousing with something, you want the tangent to where you're ending to be with the thing you're ending at. We're going to be going to Luna. Now, for rendezvous with a body, we're not going to be ending at the center of the body. What we're going to do is we're going to be ending up right on the edge of its sphere of influence, which is that point where instead of using a Kepler orbit around the Earth, it'll switch over to estimating our trajectory as a Kepler orbit around the moon. Let's set target. Show parent target alignment. Fine. I don't know what that really does, but it looks like it's doing it. Calculate will find the Holman orbit. And there is our transfer. So we're looking here and we're seeing that at some point, when we get to this point, maybe not in this orbit, maybe an orbit or two from now, probably the first time I get there actually, we will do a single burn, which will put us on this trajectory. And when we're here, we'll be transitioning into orbit around Luna. We can see that here. So relative to Luna, we will enter here and we'll kind of drift past here and we will escape there. And somewhere in here, we will burn the engines to put us closer to Luna. So with that done, we dismiss the window. I'm going to arrange for the flight computer to automatically... Whoops. I didn't hit create, did I? So we do the calculation. There's the calculation. We've got all of this stuff. Best DV and intercept velocity. Let's do both of them. Recalculate. So we got this Lambert, the pork chop plot down here, which is really simple for Luna, and blue is good. It's found the best of them in here. Black is these particular departures don't actually have a solution. Create. And that actually creates the flight plan. And here's the burn. Get rid of those. I'm going to tell the autopilot to do the burn. And I'm going to set this for positive. And we're going to warp to the point where we want to do the burn. Oh, and I need to recenter on the rocket. So the word says impact. That's if we did nothing, eventually we would be on this trajectory coming back and we would impact the Earth. So passing close to Luna will perturb our trajectory just enough so that we will have a little bit of energy stolen from us and we'll come back and we'll be too close to the ground. It's tempting to mess around with this and see if we can get a free return trajectory. That would be a trajectory where if you don't burn, what you end up doing is passing near the moon and coming back to Earth into a safe orbit, or possibly into an orbit that gives you the ability to aerobrake down. And we're going to burn. That's a pretty significant burn. So this nav ball is showing us relative to the direction we were planning on burning. So this is basically nailing zeros. Burn's done. And now I want to warp until we are near Luna. I don't think we can directly do a circularize periapsis around Luna. Yeah, that gets us the wrong thing. So I'm going to need to warp. I don't think I have a way to warp to a target. Can I select an event here and warp to it? I don't see any menus coming up there. Whoops. I double-clicked on something and it went away. That must have been the planner. Okay, so I can't put down a planning node. That's fine. I guess I just have to do this manually. Okay, so dot increases the simulation speed. Slash returns us to real time. Let's recenter on the rocket so I can watch us move. It takes a while to get out to the moon. You see the time passing rapidly here. So here we see our position relative to Earth. And over here, this is Luna and our planned trajectory relative to Luna. So as we get closer to the time, our point here for entering into the encounter and our point here for entering the encounter are going to get closer and closer and closer. And it's actually easier to watch those than it is to watch our rocket's position. So we are going really slow relative to the moon. So the moon is in an orbit that is practically circular. We're in that, when we're out at the end here, we'll be in a similar orbit, but a lot slower so that our periapsis is way closer. We are still getting there. I didn't want to go too high a sim speed. Well, I can hit slash to bring us back to real time fast enough. Oh, heck, let's just run it until we flip. Boom. Okay, we are now inside the sphere of influence of the moon, and you can actually see it drawn there as this gray ball, and when we look at it through the edge like this. What I want to do is I want to circularize our orbit at PE. Actually, what I want to do at PE is just burn like heck to bring our periapsis down. So we're going to set ourselves to retrograde by orbit velocity. So that's going to turn us around here. Now I need to be careful. If I slow too much along this line, I risk throwing us back outside the sphere of influence. I think I've had problems like that before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the PE. We're going to say plan a maneuver, circularize a periapsis. So now this will do a burn at periapsis that will put us on this orbit, which is just barely inside the sphere of influence. We're going to follow it up with some retrograde burns after that to bring our other side of the orbit down. Auto. Whoops, it didn't do it. Create. Hold on. I'm going to delete all the burns here. It may be that this was keeping burns that it shouldn't have kept. Okay, so create. We now have one burn. So this says basically I'm going to be hanging out for 4.67 days and then doing this burn. We're going to go to auto and warp. So you could have adjusted the initial burn at Earth to be a little bit more aggressive, which would put us further into Luna's sphere of influence. And this all would happen a lot faster. Now, if we didn't burn, we'd escape here and we'd end up back on this blue line. But we are burning. Okay, so auto control has adjusted our attitude for the burn. Looks like it does that about 30 seconds before the burn. Or it gets it done by that time. So the mark is the center of the burn. So the calculations that you use are all based on the idea of how much delta V do you want at one instant. But no engine gives you instantaneous delta velocity. It all takes time. So it takes several seconds. You want that one instant to be in the middle of it. In actuality, what you want is once you start burning, you want an error controller that monitors what the trajectory you're on and where you want to be, and you want it to burn to bring you to the one you want it to be on. This is kind of a dead reckoning. You calculate the heck out of it, and then you close your eyes, you do the best you can to hit the burn. Now I am going to go to retrograde. Actually, we are already in retrograde here. That's good. What is this pulse? Use fine-grained pulses of RCS. Oh, that's for RCS. Okay, we want engines. I'm going to throttle the engines down. Let's go to control rocket by hitting tab. Hit the down button, so I bring the throttle down to 5%. You don't need a whole lot of throttle near the moon. And you notice even at 5% throttle, that happens quick. So I want to go in a orbit pretty close to the moon. I don't know how big the moon is. I don't know whether that is orbit radius or altitude. Okay, we got to be careful. I get too close and it blinks out. So let's go there. And now we're going to turn off we're going to release control of the rocket. I want to go into orbit around Luna. So we're going to circularize at periapsis. And we have just the one burn. Good. Hit the auto button. Hit the warp button. So this is our lunar orbit injection burn, LOI. The other burn we did back at Earth, that was the translunar injection, TLI. So Luna has disappeared from my screen. That's unfortunate. I was hoping to get a good look at Luna as I got close to it, but I guess in this version, I may have turned the textures off or turn them down too far. We'll just have to take it as written that there's a terrestrial body in there somewhere. To burn, once we get into orbit, I'm going to come back out of map and I'll see if Luna's there. Or if we're just in orbit around something that's invisible. There we go. We're now in orbit at an altitude of 1,710 kilometers above the moon. I don't see a moon. What's that? That's got to be the Earth. So that would be off to the right. Okay, so I should be able, at this point, to set this orbit normal, nose points towards angular momentum vector. No, nose points into orbit, radial inward, there's where I want. Nose points towards surface. Point to the moon. If that's the moon, then we're showing us it's farther than I thought. We're not pointing at that. That's got to be Earth then. So the moon is missing. Oh, that's too bad. Okay, so prograde. Now we want to go the other way. I want to get back to Earth, which means I need to get on an orbit that gets me out of the moon's sphere of influence at a point where the sphere of influence, at the point where I'm toward Earth. Now, if I just burn here, okay, that will grow it out this way. Meanwhile, we're going along the orbit. So what I want to do is proceed along until I have a chance of making this work. So we're going to step forward until the line from us through the moon to Earth, we want the Earth to be off to the right of it a bit. Now, there's probably a good angle there. I'd have to work it out. The thing is that it's the time for an orbit from our current altitude to the sphere of influence edge. You can compute that, okay? And then you can say, well, we want to be starting our burn when we are that time before the line we are on goes through the Earth. And you can solve this. And we're here, and I am going to burn here. Just for no particular reason, that's how long I talked. So, control rocket. Simulation real time. And I'm going to cut this off just as soon as we escape the moon's gravity. See, we still don't have our graphics set properly for this. Since I don't know what the sphere of influence of the moon is. These are all numbers that I will be gathering before I do a real playthrough. That may be years from now. I don't know. Like I said, this is early pre-alpha. How long it's going to take to go from here to a playable game, to a releasable game, I don't know. That's growing pretty fast. So notice the orbit grows very quickly when it's out there far away from the primary. So there we've got a decent escape. And I didn't quite hit it right on, but that's got a good escape, and the orbit we're on has a periapsis that's significantly closer, which means I've got some residual oomph heading inward, which is what I want. If I could do a little bit more, notice how this moves things around a little bit. Periapsis doesn't move a whole lot, so I think that's as good as we're going to do. So let's leave our engine idle and let time go by as we make our way out of the moon's sphere of influence. Okay, back to real time. We want to get to the Earth. So the easy way to do that, again, is to put our engines facing retrograde. I'm going to speed things up so we can get ourselves turned around here. Okay, and again, we have minimum throttle. I want to watch our periapsis. So I can increase our throttle at this point. Not a lot, though. As the periapsis is coming down, I want to bring it down to under 1,000 kilometers. Watching the numbers now, not the graphic. "800 kilometers. That's pretty good. And now we can wait. Time it takes for us to fall from the moon to the Earth. Which, by the way, is a long-ass time. We're at real time now. Coming up on periapsis, and what I want to do is I should have set this up earlier. F4, I'm going to do F5, make sure that we don't have a burn left over. There we go. We're going to circularize, create. Set this up for auto. I poked the negative button there. Oh, it wants positive, so it's in the direction of the burn. I was thinking negative in the direction against the orbit. Okay. So there's a reset on these. We'll put it back to where it came from. Okay, we are burning. We still have our target set to Luna, so it's still showing us our closest approach to Luna on all of these orbits. Go back to 5, we can delete the burn. There we go. So we have successfully gone from Earth orbit to Moon orbit and back to Earth orbit. I think that's pretty good for a pre-alpha. Let's take a look at the other rocket ships. Okay, I am going to fix the graphic real quick. This may crash us, but that's okay. We've done the main thing I wanted to do. I I'm just going to apply the things that were there, and that still didn't do it. Turn off lens flares, maybe. Okay, so this is one of the kittens for Kitten Space Agency. Let's turn you around so we can see your face. This is Hunter. Stop rotating. There we go. Hunter's kind of cute. I hope we get to name our kittens. Okay, Gemini. There's a Gemini 7. And there's a Gemini 6A. Oh, I wonder if this is a rendezvous thing. Cool. Is that right? These must be radically different sizes because each of them can see the other. What's that up there? Okay, let's take a look at this. Release control, focus Gemini 7. Yeah, I thought so. These are all right next to each other. So Gemini 6A and Gemini 7 are in a very close to the same orbit. Meanwhile, Hunter at one point got out and has been on a slightly divergent orbit, which we hope doesn't go out of sync with them too badly. So in theory, you could rendezvous these guys. In theory, Hunter could wait a bit and maybe get back to them. I'm not going to do that as an exercise. That would be multiple hours of working out how to make that happen. I think we've done enough here, so I'm going to call this a recording. And I hope that we will see more progress in the future on KSA.